You did mention about the Open RPC V2 generator.
Yeah. So basically Acolyte 3 had did a port to Docusaurus, but he was using the older sort of MetaMask plugin. But the MetaMask plugin has a lot of problems. So I'm Zane from the OpenRPC team. And so we don't recommend that you use it. Um, so I think there's been a big push to be able to have additional documentation next to the RPC API. And so what I did is that the generator, the newest version of the generator, that's version 2.0, is fully compatible with the version before the upgrade to Docusaurus. But I didn't realize there was a regression and the support for the documentation. I did a couple of patches, and Acolyte 3 um, has those patches and a PR. So I'm curious like how that worked out. And then longer term, OpenRPC is putting together a roadmap for the upcoming year. We were discussing like what would be the next step for generation, and we kind of want to move more towards officially supporting Docusaurus, and then going for a style that's something more like Mentalify. And the reasons for that are that you can have a tighter integration and a more modern, like sort of layout with uh, support for things like curling things, just better searchability for the API and sort of like organization and things like that. But that's kind of like a longer term thing. And then one of the things I was kind of also hoping to solicit was some feedback on the roadmap that we're thinking about. And OpenRPC is just the specification um, language that's used by execution APIs, etc. Okay, so that's pretty much so my update.
Okay, I don't know if we can wait a little. I think Justin said he's on his way. I don't know if he'll join
Oh,
or
okay.
should just end the call.
Oh yeah, I can just hold off. I
Hello,
guess.
Jackie.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I can't talk too much because I'm in a library, so I'm just observing.
Cool. Mercy, what are you jamming on? Yeah.
Mm, I had some PRs, but it has not been merged. So I'm kind of waiting on light clients. And then due to the back and forth with the Docosaurus implementation, or Justin is here. I think I have to like redo my PR or something.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh,
Hi, folks. I'm at the Berlin Interop. I just need to find a quiet place. Okay, can everybody hear me? You can. Interesting. I cannot hear you. One moment.
No one was talking though, I think.
Oh,
So you're
great.
good.
Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, so I'm at Berlin Interop. There's a bunch of people here, et cetera, et cetera. So I am sorry I'm late. Um, I will catch up with what's going on in the chat, though. But hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Did everybody have a chance to look at the agenda?
Uh, yeah. Well, I did.
Okay, cool. Is that what you're talking about? It looks like Mercy just posted a link to the OpenRPC update there.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about the Docusaurus and Gatsby change. I haven't run Acolyte 3's implementation or update on the V2 generator, but I did put in some fixes that were regressions that were preventing markdown documents from being able to like render very easily.
Okay.
So there's just like a directory that you throw in markdown to, and then it will generate those documents. And you can also do like MDX, so you can style it by putting sort of React components on the inside. Of the markdown. So it's pretty customizable, everything except for the sidebar. And then I was talking a little bit about the aspect of the OpenRPC roadmap that is talking about a documentation overhaul, and some of the thoughts that we were thinking going forward that would be something that we would integrate into the standard. So we would officially support Docusaurus, and then we would be migrating from Gatsby. But right now, the Docusaurus for MetaMask is definitely like sort of deprecated. So it would be just kind of gathering feedback on some of the features that you might like. And our thinking is that we can take Docusaurus and we can style that to be more like Mentlify, but then all of the sort of doc framework for doing the generation would come from the generator itself.
Okay, so I'm not really familiar with the other product that you just mentioned. Did anybody else on the call have a chance to pull both of these PRs and build them and take a look at it? Does anybody have a strong opinion on either of the user experiences as a dev or even as a API? Okay. Maybe that can be some homework for folks, or we can even have that conversation asynchronously, no problem. But I think that's kind of the question that we have is, on the one hand, which experience do we think devs are going to like better, and on the other hand, which one's going to be easier for us to maintain and keep up to date moving forward, based on where OpenRPC is going to go. And obviously, we would strongly want to consider Zane's input on that, since he's here representing the RPC or the OpenRPC side of it.
Okay, I think I can do that and then get back to give you feedback on it.
Cool, thank you, Mercy. And again, we can just do that asynchronously, or even comment on the agenda for next week.
Yeah, I was hoping to. I thought maybe Acolyte was going to be able to make it, so I was hoping to see how it ended up being styled out. But yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, you might have better luck trying to catch up with him online. I'm happy to do a Discord introduction if that's necessary. And so, in the interest of keeping things brief, I want to hint on one more point that was there on the agenda. We can kind of skip the thing on the style guide, I think. But the second point that I have in the agenda here is the notion of divorcing structure from data. And that is, it's an idea actually Matt and I were talking about here at Interop for a little bit. We think it might have some legs. But right now, the endpoint for our specs is really, does RPC compat pass in Hive? And as we've discussed in the past, RPC compat does a straight string comparison between expected input and expected output. And we think we might be able to relax that quite a bit by leaning more towards JSON schemas and having a separate test suite that really just focuses on semantics and formatting and all that stuff that we expect for a validly behaving client, but with a minimal coverage of the return values and the actual data that's being tested. What do folks think about that? Is that a direction that folks want to pursue? Is that useful to you as an API developer? Does anybody have any thoughts on the matter?
So I have some thoughts. I used
Great.
to work at QA on Infura, and I fully support that idea. Sorry, I have to whisper because I'm in a library.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I think anything to help the devs. Not everyone cares about that. The JSON schema, we did a bit of testing like that at Infura when I was working there. So I fully support this move.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. Well, I wonder, did you have any thoughts on, the level of, input checking? So for instance, you have a problem when you're testing an RPC call because today, when you do a string comparison, you have to know that the values that are actually being filled out in the response are correct. Focusing on just the schema allows you to kind of ignore that. But, there's still a need to actually have some you have to know what questions to ask it through the RPC, right? So if you're going to say get block, you need to pass it a hash. If you're going to be asserting on the structure of a specific get block call.
Yeah,
Today the
so
way that Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, go on. I thought you were asking me a question. So like I guess what I'm saying is we need all different types of tests, so that's why it's good to have just the schema type of tests, because some people
Mhm.
don't care about the string comparison, like they're okay with some discrepancies there. So I guess it was that simple, just being able to have the option of just the
Okay,
schema comparison.
right. So it's a testing in depth type answer. It sounds like good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that that makes sense to be able to have some schema validation. So at OpenRPC, we actually have a JSON schema like spec tester. So like I know Shane has done a lot of work on um, basically validating GEF client calls versus like what the spec returns. So you can see like what those discrepancies are from the documents. And I know he's found a lot of like issues with the actual specification versus like what GAF is returning during that. So a toolkit like test coverage is, I think, pretty good slash almost complete for doing that kind of like schema validation. So that could be somewhat useful. And I think like being able to have a minimal thing that like covers the all the possible states, because like I think the validation can't be decoupled from the data entirely, because like if you need to validate that you're returning uncles properly, the semantic meaning goes beyond just the like the syntactic meaning, so you really do need syntactic and semantic validation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement on that. It's just a matter of finding that line, and we want to tilt it. In this case, we want to do as much in the schema and relying on the schema as possible, and yet still afford and facilitate the more specific stuffs like the uncle case that you're citing there. Okay. Okay. Cool. Last question that I had for folks, and like I said, I want to keep this brief because I was late, and I apologize for that. I'll give you some time back. Um, who has JavaScript experience and would be interested in kind of taking over a couple of those PRs that are floating out there that Acolyte was working on, potentially, making sure things are up to date, working on the NPM environments, the build process, merging in the PRs for either rather the I just blanked on Zane. What's the name of the renderer that we're using on the OpenRPC side? Gatsby. Gatsby.
Yeah.
Um, Either that or Docusaurus, depending on which one we go with. Um, we're getting to implementation time, I think, on this, and I'm unclear as to who can pick it up and run with it, if anybody. Um, so we're probably going to be opening issues against the execution API repo and hoping for somebody to take a look at those. And I do have Matt's ear at the moment, so I will be hassling him to approve any PRs that are coming through. So I think this is just a long-winded way of me asking, like, who, if anybody, is available to volunteer for work. I don't want to put you on the spot right now. Um, if you want to reach out to me in private and say, hey, I think I could take this issue, I could work on this issue, awesome.
I
I don't, go ahead.
I did start working on some issues, and also when Lat Client mentioned about it, I sent him a message, although he did not reply. But that was before we had to go through this back and forth the stories and the Gatsby implementation, because I had an APL
Okay.
that actually have like is linked to this other PL. So I don't know. It depends on when this get merged or gets resolved on the final outlook we are looking for the documentation. So
Okay, so perhaps I'm looking at the wrong bottleneck in the system. I will talk to Matt about that.
Yeah. And just like for clarity from our perspective on like the open RPC side, um, like the docs from MetaMask, like which we also like wrote, um, like are not in like the condition to be used, I would say, for like the like sort of Ethereum like ecosystem. And so essentially what happened was we were in the middle of this system overhaul because like there had been some rust, we jammed on it, and then we got the ecosystem back into like working shape back when it was like pristine. And I think in between there's some concerns that like folks wanted to see like more side documentation. And so the side documentation like works again in like Gatsby. Um, and so it's like it's kind of at this tension point where
Can you give
we
me an example of what side documentation would be?
so like I think last week or a couple weeks ago, you had like an introduction as to like how you use the spec, how do you contribute to the spec,
Ah,
and all
yeah,
of that
that's the good
stuff,
stuff. The
which is all the
narrative.
good stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's more than just the spec itself.
yeah.
So like we wanted to be able to support that. We actually used to support that, but then there was a regression that prevented that. And I actually reached out to Light Client maybe one day before um, the uh, the Docusaurus landed. So I
Right.
think the timing was just slightly weird. But like the real issue with the Docusaurus is that it's not maintained. A lot of the packages are like really old. And the other thing is that it doesn't support the newer features that get you things like error grouping, extensions, and other bug fixes that we've done to OpenRPC. And we don't really have a way to like update that. The other sort of major issue is that it's hard coded to use window.ethereum. And as the RPC execution API standard, you probably want to be able to specify exactly what your RPC call is and not necessarily need to grab like per se the wallet provider that's providing the window.ethereum API.
Right, right.
And like so there's that. And then there's also the usage of stoplight on the inside of the stoplight schema, which is causing the schema validations and the Docusaurus issues. And yeah, so those are like sort of the major issues on why the DocuSource plugin is probably not the answer, but it's not that we don't want to move to a better system that facilitates just like a better experience. So that's part of the reason why we're putting it on the roadmap for this upcoming year. And so like it's kind of like probably one of the highest priorities, and like we'd be like really open to any sort of feedback on like whether working to help improve test coverage is like a higher priority or a complete refactoring of the documentation generation would be even higher priority than that. So, yeah, those are my
Okay.
my thoughts on like the Gatsby Docusaurus. And the
Okay.
thing with the Gatsby is that all of the changes into the Gatsby ecosystem are non-breaking. So like they work just as your ecosystem worked before the Docusaurus landing, with like no changes, other than just like the major version bump and making sure you're on the latest version of Node, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll dump all of that on Matt.
So those are my thoughts. I know it's a lot.
No, it's good. It's good. I think I got a good TLDR out of that. Cool. All right. Well, I'm actually ready to call it here. I apologize for starting late and ending early, but things are a little bit crazy on my side. Does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up, though? I don't have anything, so the time is really yours. Okay.
I just have a question. Is there like
Yeah.
further discussion on the PR on standardizing JSON RPC error codes?
Yes. There was a PR open. Yes. Good question.
I guess, what do folks want to know about the error codes? Because Sims is in the middle of another meeting, so he couldn't be here today.
So this is PR 858. Is that right? 658. Sorry, I misread that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the grouping one. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Actually, Sims says that he can join now, so he's getting ready to join.
Okay.
And yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I think the TLDR. I guess maybe I should wait for him to join. But Mercy, I don't know if you had any specific questions or if you're just looking for a path forward to either adopting this or getting it merged. Is that kind of your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sims has arrived.
Hello, Sims.
Hey, folks. Oh, sorry for being late. I was on
No,
another
that's
meeting.
okay. It's been actually super chaotic over here as well, so no worries.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was actually going to give you the floor. I just wanted to do a quick, context. We had some time to go over the RPC. I'm sorry, the PR with the error groups in it, the RPC. And I think we were kind of curious as to what you imagine the path forward and next steps were to be on something like this if we were to adopt error codes. Also, my feedback on it was I think this is good. I don't see any reason not to pursue it. But the real issue that I think we would get a lot of lift out of is being able to abstract out messages from the error codes. We obviously want all the clients to be aligned on the codes themselves, but we want the
Right.
messages to be free-form, and we want the clients to be able to add whatever information they have in their own context to the messages. And that is another thing that I don't know that this approach can solve, right? Our assertions are a string comparison right now, and that's the real actual problem. But
Correct.
is that a part of the problem space that you considered with this?
I did, definitely. I can send out an alternative proposal just to see if that can align the error messages themselves. But it's not mandatory. Like you mentioned, we only want to focus on error code as to start with, at least, because that's going to solve a lot of problem. Adding the error messages or standardizing the error messages is going to be cherry on top. Just makes the user experience much more better overall. But it's definitely, we can rediscuss this. I can write up another proposal. It's not too different. I will be just standardizing the error, So it'll be easy for the clients to adopt, and it's not like a too big of a deal. I'll rephrase this. Maybe I can send another proposal in the next meeting, but I can go over their codes, focusing just on that for now.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Mercy, did you have any other follow-up questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to think through. I'll just drop a message.
Cool. I can represent whatever I did last week. Now that we have a little bit more folks, let me quickly share the
Uh,
screen. Sorry.
Oh, yes, I see. She has a PRA. Do it. Yep.
okay, I wanted to ask, like, for example, when an established application like let's say clients have their hard-coded error handling for existing specific client code, how are we going to like work around this? Are they going to redo it or?
Um, Okay, that's a great question. The implementation, I did look at some of the client code like get, I don't know, Besu was long back. I did look into it. Yeah, it's all over the place. There's no standardization. The actual implementation, what I was thinking is initially I could, or we could, whoever wants to volunteer, we could come up with a standard of creating a framework or library to import just their codes and then use them, or just implement it in any way the clients want to, and it's the easier way it feels for them, and then we can just do the validation on EVM compatibility testing that we have a lots of framework, right? The Hive client or RPC test gen, anywhere. There is no particular constraints when it comes to the implementation. The original plan I had was just first work with one client and see how this goes. And once we have that implemented and see how easy or hard it is, we can define how we want to standardize these error codes. Maybe it will be best to convert that into a library and then expose it so the clients can just consume it, or just use the error codes. Now the error codes are standardized and it's in the spec. Anyone can just look it up and validate. So that was the two idea I had initially.
Okay, I think the second one will kind of like make sense because most of the time, if you're looking at implementing it on one client first, most of the time when trying to do it on another client, we face a lot of issues because for example, the each simulate call we're having, there was a lot of differences between get and the Nethermind. Then those
Right.
had to like be so there is always a backlog coming up at every given time.
No, I do agree. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you guys think having a standardized library makes sense, for sure we can work on it. But I don't know how much useful it's gonna be, or how. I think we can discuss it for sure. We can have some ideas, brainstorm, and come up with a framework. Sure, for sure. The only thing I was thinking is how this would actually be, standardized in a sense that can be implemented in a library, and then anyone can consume it. Because at the end of the day, it's just a standard codes. Maybe we can have constants that just gives out the grouping and people can use it. But only if you go with the error messages, maybe it'll make sense much more. But yeah, I'll give it a little bit more thought, and I can come up with something next call.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
summarize this and I'll put it on as an agenda point for the next call. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Eric,
Thanks,
you have
Justin.
your hand up?
Yeah, hi everybody. So yeah, I just wanted to ask, I learned about this call from talking to Frederick, and I was
Good.
suggesting some things around like RPC security, and he was like, "Oh, there's actually like a work stream on the RPC stuff." So I wonder what is like the process around this. Like, is this like a big rewrite you're doing right now, or is this more topical things? Like,
Good
what's
question.
I know
Yeah.
it's a bit high
So,
level. Sorry.
no, that's okay. That's good. I can answer it quickly because then I have to go. But the TLDR is right now, we are just trying to get the RPC layers specified and something that we can test against and something that we can document it and present it to all Ethereum devs, right? So everybody has a, hold on a second. So like all developers could have the same type of experience working against it. They'd know what to expect. Security is a very interesting one. And I think that this would be the right place to have that conversation, but probably not for some time. So for instance, you know, there's things like JWTs being specified in order to access the engine API layer. That happened to be specified as part of the, merge when we introduce that stuff, right? But there's no real blanket prescription or guidance on how to secure any of the other APIs, et cetera. So I think that TLDR is that you're in the right place. I don't know if the timing is just right yet, but there's no reason that we couldn't have these conversations in parallel. You know, the specification of the JSON calls and responses is moving pretty slowly, and we actually have probably, you know, we could carve up a bunch of time in this call to have discussions about security as well.
Sounds cool. Sounds cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'd definitely love to touch on things like, I don't know, like better authentication and authorization for the
That's great.
API stuff. That things that haven't been touched, right, in the definition of the API initially.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so hopefully you found the JSON RPC channel in the EthRND Discord. That's the best place to get in touch with us.
Okay, perfect. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thanks everybody. I have to go. I appreciate all your patience putting up with me as I'm in such a rushed state. Awesome. See you, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone. Peace.